Here is the truth. The more that you try to control outcomes in your relationship, the less attractive you actually become. And the counterintuitive way to creating more attraction between yourself and somebody else, and to even being perceived as more lovable, it is not controlling outcomes at all. In fact, it's something very different. And in today's video, I will explain why a lot of anxious individuals often lean on control, how that blocks authenticity and attraction, and how letting go of control actually makes you more magnetic and creates a much deeper sense of connection. We'll cover 3 major points, including the research on what truly makes somebody more attractive and lovable, and we'll go through a really powerful, hopefully life-changing exercise at the end that will allow you to start on an entirely new path towards building true connection and magnetism in your life. Anxiously attached individuals are not necessarily trying to control other people. Maybe in small cases they do at times, trying to control how often they text with somebody or communicate with somebody. But what they often are trying to do is control the way that they are perceived by other people by essentially controlling everything that they say and trying to overanalyze it and think it through as a means to get reassurance and closeness by controlling people's perceptions of them outside of them. But focusing on the outside world will constantly move you away from your own inner authenticity. And if you look at how control blocks attraction and how anything less than moving from your truest, most authentic version of yourself will do the same, then we have to look at the actual neuroscience of attraction itself. And there's a few things that you really want to know. Controlling outcomes signals insecurity, which in turn has been shown in research to lower attraction. In fact, studies show that individuals who are chronically people-pleasing are actually rated as less desirable by others. And controlling behaviors themselves, really controlling who you are and how you present yourself, and constantly worrying about it often stems from a fear of rejection and abandonment. In fact, research in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people rate partners as less attractive and less desirable when they are portraying people-pleasing tendencies because it actually signals to somebody else that their self-confidence is lower. A 2014 study on romantic relationships found that perceived partner control increases resistance from the partner, meaning that the more that one partner in a relationship tries to exert control, basically the less the other partner in the relationship wants to engage, and even often finds themselves rebelling or being in resistance to those types of behaviors. Another 2012 study published in the Journal of Personality found that authenticity correlates with higher perceived attractiveness by others, trustworthiness, and likability, all obviously key cornerstones to building a connection with somebody in the early stages. And in relationships, authenticity makes somebody feel like they're with somebody real and grounded, which naturally boosts attraction. And I want you to keep in mind that when it comes to being with somebody real, that also means somebody who's vulnerable, somebody who colors outside of the line sometimes, or is okay with their own mistakes. Because human beings make mistakes, and it's our ability to own them and move through them that makes us actually be able to foster deep connection. Nobody connects with some idealized, perfected version of somebody who's constantly people-pleasing, trying to do everything just right, and constantly striving for this idealized version of perfection. Now, here's the thing. When I'm talking about controlling people's perceptions of you, I do not mean that releasing control ends up being that you shouldn't communicate your needs. It's actually the opposite. Releasing control means stop worrying about people's perceptions of you so much that you're willing to deny your own needs and your own truth. Instead, the goal becomes to be able to show up completely authentically and to allow somebody to respond to who you truly are without trying to change your needs or feelings about something in order to change the outcome of a situation with another person. And although that may feel vulnerable at first and a little bit confronting, it is a huge step towards becoming securely attached, and it is a huge step towards your own inner healing and finding inner peace within the relationship to yourself. There is, in fact, an old Buddhist idea about impermanence. And the idea or concept of impermanence states that because everything is in a constant state of change, trying to control things that are impermanent in the outside world is futile. Peace peace instead within yourself comes from acceptance. And we actually need to get to know ourselves, especially if you're anxiously attached, in order to be able to accept yourself. And the more you know and accept yourself, the more you are building true self-esteem and inner self-confidence. Another powerful quote about this is Paul in 2 Corinthians, who talks about how his strength comes through surrender. And this is because there is a profound strength that is built in our own willingness to be vulnerable and the courage required to be ourselves out in the world. Anxious attachment styles are often secretly unavailable in a hidden form because the more you're wearing this mask of people pleasing, the more you're just wearing a mask and not truly being yourself. And it is in that trying to control through all of that pressure and expectation on yourself that will lead to more suffering, while inner acceptance actually leads to peace. Non-resistance to who you truly are, to sharing yourself with others, and allowing yourself to truly take up space is a form of healing. And I want you to tap in for a second and notice what that feels like in your body. What comes up for you in your body when you think of the idea of unapologetically being yourself? Sharing your needs very directly and in moment-to-moment times that they come up for you. Sharing your boundaries, in other words, your true yeses and nos with others unapologetically. And sharing your feelings and allowing your own feelings and emotions to be valid if something hurts you or affects you. A lot of times when you tap into your own inner feelings in your body there, you'll actually feel resistance and fear. And that is because you are often finding yourself as an anxious attachment individual more concerned with the outcomes of people's reactions or responses to you than about actually sharing your own inner world with another person. And this will always lead to less fulfilling relationships. So we're going to go into an exercise in just a moment for how to actually show up and heal and grow in this particular area of your life. Because the more authentically you show up to others and the more unapologetically yourself you are, the more attractive other people will find you and the more lovability and connection you're going to be able to build. But before we go into this exercise, I want to share one of my favorite quotes, and it's actually from the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna teaches that you have a right to your own actions, but never to the fruits. And this, again, is another quote that exemplifies that suffering comes from trying to control outcomes, but freedom comes from acting with devotion about the truth and authenticity of our actions while being able to let go or divest from the fruits or the results and outcomes. And the more you centralize your focus on living in integrity to your own inner world and moving through life from the inside out, I promise you over time, the easier your life will become, especially as you get comfortable living from that space. So I want to go through an exercise, and really it's two exercises. And the first thing I want to share with you is that if you are sitting here listening to this video going, okay, I understand Thais is saying, I need to show up more authentically in regards to my feelings, my needs, my boundaries. I need to be more unapologetically myself and learn to take up space. And that's going to make me more desirable and attractive to others. And it's going to be healing in the relationship to myself. But how on earth do I do that? And how on earth do I gather the courage to do that? I want you to know that oftentimes our ability to show up that way actually starts with getting to know ourselves. And a lot of times, anxious attachment styles have spent a lifetime being so externally focused on other people and how to please them and win them over and what other people want from them or who they want them to be, that the primary casualty becomes the relationship to yourself. And so the first actual branch of being able to do this work starts with you dating yourself, so to speak. And what I mean by that is when you sit down on a date, what do? You start to get to know somebody. You ask them deep and personal and meaningful questions. And you do this across time. You don't know somebody completely after a first date. There is a process of getting to know somebody that occurs over weeks and months before you feel like you finally have a really good, clear understanding of who this person actually is. And if you're somebody sitting here today who's never spent time truly getting to know yourself, that may be the prerequisite to starting. And I'm going to take you through another exercise in just a moment, but keep in mind, if we talk about this next part of the exercise and you're like, wait, I'm not ready for that yet, You're better off getting to know yourself first. And in fact, in the Anxious Preoccupied Rewiring course, the neuroscience of how you change your attachment style to become secure and heal the relationship within yourself, we actually have this really long list of self-connection questions. It's all about how to date yourself and connect to yourself through asking these meaningful questions that center around discovering who you truly are. And you can actually check out that course for free, just for a limited time by using the link down below. And that actually comes with a free bonus course for life, all about what a securely attached relationship looks like. I will get into that exercise, but just know that that is there if you want to go a little bit deeper. So here is the main exercise for you if you're anxiously attached. I want you to ask yourself, what are the most common outcomes that I try to control with people around me? Do I try to control my ability to be liked? Do I try to control my ability to be responded to promptly? Do I try to control making sure that people see me as a good person or think I'm good enough or worthy? I want you to really notice the patterns and themes that exist within your life and note them down. Or at least if you're listening to this while you're driving or something of that nature, I want you to take some mental notes here. Number two, I want you to ask yourself, what is the truest need that I am trying to get met by controlling this thing? So for example, if you are trying to control somebody's perception of you, maybe it's so that you can feel like you are validated or worthy of support or connection. And in this third part of the exercise, after you've taken some time to really consider what that need is that you're in this sort of dire need to get met from your outside world, I want you to ask yourself from 1 to 10, how much have I sourced this within the relationship to myself? In other words, if you're trying to get validation or love from outside of you, as those needs, I want you to ask yourself, how much am I giving myself validation? And how much am I loving myself? And really being able to connect to myself on a daily basis. And here's the thing, the more this need is met within you and truly saturated in that inner relationship to self, the more you're going to be in a place with everybody outside of you where you are not coming from a complete place of lack. I want you to think of this analogy that you drive into a gas station and your gas tank is completely on empty. Well, you go in and you really need the gas station to be open. In fact, you might even find yourself panicking a little bit. And that is because you are coming from a place of lack. But if instead your gas tank is always halfway full when you go to top it up, if the gas station's not open, it feels like a minor inconvenience instead of something that will send you into a complete state of panic and distress. And that is because the more you seek things from within yourself, not only do you have the ability to uphold your standards outside of you, be more patient for the right person to come along in relationships, uphold your boundaries if people are treating you poorly, but the more authentic and attractive you will be because you know your needs, you show up for them, and you're able to take up space and present them, and in a healthy way, expect them from others and not invest in relationships where your needs won't be met. So this is hopefully, if you're newer to this work, the beginning of your journey, or something if you've been in this work for a little bit to really deeply focus on as an anxious attachment style. And again, if you want to go way deeper on this and just get a lot of results a lot faster, you can dive into our anxious attachment style rewiring course to really leverage neuroscience to change your attachment style and rewire it as quickly as possible using that link to access it for free down below. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of my daily videos that I put out on here. Let me know any questions you have as well in the comments down below or any more content you want to see. And I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.